Following is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 3, Text 32, given by Hridayananda Das Goswami on June 8, 1990 in Gainesville, Florida.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Can everyone see the verse? Dasyu Utkrishta Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajana Praja Bhaksha Shishna Udara Para Dija. Very heavy statement here. Dasyukrishta Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajanascha Prajabhaksha Shishnudara Paradija Dasyukrishta Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajanascha Prajabhaksha Shishnudara Paradija. This verse is as follows, are as follows. Dasyu Utkrishta, predominated by thieves. Janapada, the populated places. Veda, the Vedic scriptures. Pashanda, by atheists. Dushita, contaminated. Rajana, the political leaders. Chayan, Prajabhaksha, consuming the populace. Shishna Udara, to the genitals and belly. Para, dedicated. Dija, the Brahmanas. So translation, please repeat. This is, of course, a description of the Kali Yuga. Cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. Purport. Many large cities are unsafe at night. For example, it is understood that no sane person will walk in New York Central Park at night because he knows he will almost certainly be mugged. Is that true?
Oh, yes.
Apart from ordinary thieves who abound in this age, large cities are filled with cutthroat businessmen who enthusiastically convince people to purchase and consume useless or even harmful products. It has been well documented that beef, tobacco, liquor, and many other modern products destroy one's physical health, what to speak of mental health, and yet modern capitalists do not hesitate to use every psychological trick in the book to convince people to consume these things. Modern cities are full of mental and atmospheric pollution, and even ordinary citizens are finding them unbearable. This verse also points out that the teachings of the Vedic scriptures will be distorted in this age. Great universities teach courses on Hinduism, in which Indian religion, despite limitless evidence to the contrary, is described as polytheistic and leading to an impersonal salvation. In fact, all Vedic literature is a unified whole, as stated by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaista Sarvaya Hameva Vedya. By all the Vedas I, Krishna, am to be known. All Vedic literature is meant for enlightening us about the supreme personal absolute truth, Vishnu or Krishna. Although known by many names and appearing in many forms, God is a single absolute entity and he is a person. But this true Vedic understanding is hidden in the Kali Yuga. In this verse, Sukadev astutely observes that, quote, political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. How sadly true this statement is. Om jnanatamidandasya jnanam jana salakaya chakshurum milidam jena tasmai sri gurave namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sangrupa Gadahayam Gadati Sapadantikam. Dasyukrishta Janapada Veda Pasanda Dushita Rajanascha Prajabhaksha Shishnodara Paradija. So, this is a description of Kali Yuga. Janapada, Janapada. Pada means position. Pada also means foot. So wherever your foot is, that's where you are. So also we say in English, someone has a particular standing. So it's a simple point. Anyway, Jana, where the people stand, where the people are settled, that is called Janapada, or the city. Janapada. So these Janapadas, these cities will become Dasyutkrishta, dominated by thieves. Dominated by thieves. That is actually happening. It will happen more. It will actually become even more prominent. And Veda Pashan Dushita, the Vedas become contaminated by atheists. Pashan Dushita. Isn't it? We're practically seeing so-called big scholars comment in the Vedic literature in such a way that it actually kills one's desire for self-realization. Isn't it? The whole Vedic knowledge, Krishna says, Vedaischa Sarvair Ahameva Vedya. Krishna is to be known by all the Vedic literature. But by hearing the Vedic literature from the so-called scholars, actually it kills one's desire to worship God. Rather, one becomes very puffed up thinking that I'm more intelligent than the primitive people who wrote these literatures or the poets. Actually, I'm the greatest scholar. My words are authoritative, more than the Vedic literature. So these are the Pashandi. Rajanasya Prajabhaksha. And the leaders, the kings, or rulers, or presidents, or prime ministers, whatever you call it. Raja is a generic term. They will consume the citizens. Prajabhaksha. Bhaksha means eating, consuming. They will devour the citizens. So this is also described elsewhere, taxes and persecution in so many ways. That is also happening. And Shisnodara Paradija. The Dija, so-called Brahmins, will become devotees dedicated to their genital and belly. Shishna. Shishna means sex organ. And Udara means belly. Actually, you can see it, isn't it? In so many religious places, even in India, you can see that so-called pujaris. You come there, they chase you, physically chase you to get money, and they take the money and eat, and then they have sex. Isn't it? Actually, we can actually observe this. And also, of course, in the Western countries, because there already is some money, people simply don't become pujaris or priests. But still, it's also a type of profession for many people. So, the common point here is that in the material conception of life, people are trying to enjoy the fruits of their activities. That's the contamination. If you study Bhagavad Gita carefully, you'll see this point is central, is one of the central points. That we are not meant to try to enjoy the fruits of our activities. We are meant to offer the fruit to Krishna. So, this takes place on two levels, which are described by Krishna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is sacrifice. Sacrifice means that you work, and with the fruit of that work you offer to God. You don't try to enjoy it. This is sacrifice. This is the spirit of sacrifice. Karma phala tyaga. Lord Krishna says, Jagartha karmana anyatra loko jam karma bandhana. Everything you do in this world is karma bandhana, bondage, slavery, unless you offer the result to Krishna. So Lord Krishna states in the 4th chapter, Shayan dravyamaya jagyat karma jnana jaga parantapa sarvam karmakhilam parata jnane parisamapyate. That even better than the sacrifice of material things is the sacrifice of knowledge. Jnana jaga. What does this mean? Shayan is better. This means that one may work in the mood of charity or in the mood of missionary activities, but one may become very proud. One may think that I've become a great worker. This is called in Sanskrit karma vir. Great worker. I've become a great worker. Just open it to Urdu. I've become a great worker. I'm very intelligent, I'm this, I'm that. In other words, one may outwardly work for a Krishna conscious mission, but within one may actually become very proud. Therefore, one is not actually offered one's consciousness to Krishna. So therefore Lord Krishna says, Shayan Dravyamaya Jago. Dravya means material things. So Shayan Dravya, better Dravyamaya Jagat than sacrifice of Dravya, or simply giving material things to Krishna. Jnana Jaga Parantapa. When you actually sacrifice your consciousness to Krishna, you actually become Krishna conscious. Very humble and completely dedicated to Krishna's mission. Completely dedicated to Krishna's mission. And you actually accept that I'm eternal servant of Krishna, and one actually acts in the mood of a servant, not trying to become the master of anything. Prabhupada once said that people give me so much credit for this movement. He said, I don't take any credit, but if you must give me credit for one thing, he said, I only take credit for this, that I never tried to take the position of Krishna. So if you think about this statement, he said it very boldly, I never tried to take the position of Krishna. Actually, who can say that I never tried to take the position of Krishna? I never tried to be the controller. I never tried to become the enjoyer. I never think that I'm the greatest. I never take the position. So no one can say that, except Prabhupada. Only Prabhupada can say that I never tried to take the position of Krishna. So this is Jnana Jaga. This is the sacrifice. Jnana means knowledge, also means consciousness. So, Krishna says, Sarvam karma kilam bharatas jnani parisamapyate. Because after all, Lord Krishna says, all activities or rituals or processes, they all culminate in knowledge or in some understanding. So that sacrifice by which one comes to knowledge, that's actually very important. Jnana yoga, or buddhi yoga, it's also described in the Gita. So anyway, because material desire, lobha, kama, greed, lust, means that one immediately tries to enjoy the fruits of his work. Otherwise, what does it mean to be greedy? What does it mean when one is obsessed with one's bodily comfort? I want this kind of house, I want that kind of material situation. That means he's working, but he wants the fruit of that work. Then they say, yes, but when I'm completely stuffed with fruit, then I'll do something for Krishna. Let me eat 50 pounds of fruit, and then when I'm satisfied, I'll do something. Actually, or one tries to enjoy sex pleasure. Actually, this is the effect of lust. Just like let's say someone's even chanting for Krishna. As some man, as soon as he sees some attractive woman and he's attracted, immediately he's chanting for his sense gratification. He's chanting to impress some woman. For the woman, immediately, as soon as the lusty thought or material thought comes to the mind, immediately they're acting for sense gratification. They're speaking, everything is to attract someone for their sense gratification. So this is the effect of lust. As soon as lust enters the mind or heart, immediately one becomes a fruitive worker. This is immediate transformation. Therefore, one must conquer over sex desire. Unless and until one conquers over sex desire, one cannot actually understand or experience the real essence of Krishna consciousness. Of course, the practice also is good, sadhana bhakti. But to actually understand what is Krishna consciousness, one must give up this false concept of life in which one sees oneself as the enjoyer, one takes a body to be the self, just like a foolish animal, one thinks one's body is attractive and tries to attract other animal-like philosophers to one's body. So this is not very intelligent. This is not very intelligent. One should give up this bodily concept of life, but one should worship the spiritual body of Krishna. Angani jasya sakalendriya vriti manti pasyanti panti kalayanti chiram chiram. Anyway, so in this verse, the Kali Yuga is described. We should not be the Shishnodara Paradija, the Brahmins who are dedicated to their tongue and belly, that my wife, someone is thinking that his wife gives him sex pleasure, so in order to keep this object around, the object of my sex attraction, I have to get money and then eat nicely. Actually, spiritual life can degenerate into this. Even in the name of Varnashram, actually one can degenerate into a person described here, dedicated to one's belly and genitals. So, therefore, one has to be very cautious. One has to see how I'm advancing in Krishna consciousness, how increasing my attraction for Krishna means increasing my attraction for hearing and chanting. This is the measure. This is the process for this age. If you are actually advancing, it means you're getting more taste to get up early, to come and see the deities, to chant Hare Krishna, to hear the class. This is the symptom of advancement. This is the symptom. And if one is not advancing, he's going down. That means he's not so attracted to come and hear class or chant, but he's very attracted to speak to women. He's very attracted to speak. He finds this very enjoyable. He wants to speak to women. He wants to speak about or women want to speak about all their, the latest gossip, romantic affairs. So and so is with so and this one and that one. This becomes more interesting than to preach Krishna consciousness or to hear about Krishna. This is a symptom that one is falling down. So we should see practically how we are advancing, how we are becoming attracted to Krishna, and this is the real process, actually. Anyway, we don't have so much time today. Or have to catch up on any questions? Yes?
In the sadhana stage, in the neophyte stage, the lust is there, sitting, in the intelligence and the mind, etc. Now, how can we encapsulate that lust? Just like sometimes there's, infection.
Work hard. You work very hard. Therefore Prabhupada stressed to keep busy in Krishna's service. He said, idle mind's devil's workshop. If one is lusty and lazy means inevitable fall down. One will, spiritual life will be finished. Lusty and lazy. One should work very, very hard. Work and minimize eating and sleeping. One should work hard. Day and night, working for Krishna. That also means chanting, going to programs, day and night. Not complain and lament that I have to work hard for Krishna. Even the residents of Vrindavan, the most exalted souls in the universe, they work so hard that instead at night they would immediately fall asleep because they work so hard during the day. Not they were just, strolling around doing bhajans all day, tuning their harmoniums and venas. Actually, they were working very hard. Even the residents of Vrindavan are working, even the gopis, the most exalted devotees in the universe. What is that verse? That Brajabadhu, that Kachit Ramya Upasana Brajabadhu Varga Ja Kalpita. Isn't it? Brajabadhu Vargena Ja Kalpita. That there is the greatest process of worshipping Krishna is that which was shown by the gopis. Even those gopis, they were working so hard. It's described Mother Jasoda. She was working so hard, she was perspiring, churning, but they were working very hard, physical labor. Yes?
Doesn't Srila Prabhupada say that a certain system in Vedic culture that just 3 months a year you can work and the rest of the time you can devote to spiritual culture. So really, in another instance he says that if a person...
Prabhupada was making the point that this modern industrial society, actually not just 3 months, we practically see. There's so much to do, building temples, making arrangements, there's so much work. The idea is that fruitive work can be minimized, not work. Not work. Spiritual culture doesn't just mean everyone sits around all day around the campfire. Very hard work. That's Prabhupada's. You have to see how Prabhupada actually taught. He was making the point that as far as just surviving, maintaining your body, that can be minimized. But there's so much work to be done.
You're saying specifically about growing grain. 3
Yeah.
months you're growing up grains for the whole year.
Yeah, but there's so much other work. There's so much work to be done. Yeah?
Let's say something happened, like Amrendra became mayor of Gainesville. How would something like all the thieves, which there's a lot of now?
Well, it's not just electing. Actually, there has to be a willingness on the part of the people to support real government.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. What would a Krishna conscious mayor do? It wouldn't just be a strict law enforcer. By what process would he?
Harinam and Kirtan, Prasad distribution.
Prabhupada outlined Prabhupada gave some outlines in the first canto in terms of
Yes,
things for general
yes.
society.
Also in this discussion with that man from the Chicago Police Force, there's a whole interview. So everything is there. We better stop here. Yes, last thing.
Just about the Vedas being polluted. I understood that to mean that in Kali Yuga, actually there's interpolations which distort the real.
Yeah, all these things are. In every way they believe.
Just a thing, of course, to come to your class is very enlightening, but a lot of people kind of worry, I don't want to come.
Well, if someone can actually say something nice, he should say it. Otherwise, he can read also. And we have to go, just like Mangalarti. You may not like the kirtan leader, but you have to go to the Mangalarti. The potency is there. Actually, when I was staying in Los Angeles, I was hearing hundreds of classes by so many devotees, and I found that practically in every class I learned something. I can't think of one class I went to that didn't learn something or hear some very interesting realization. And we'll have to stop here. We'll be back in a few weeks. Talk more about Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada. The following is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 2, given by Hridayananda Das Goswami in July 1990 in San Diego, California. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and purport by Hridayananda Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So 3, 2, 2. This chapter is called Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Pancha Ayana Matra Pratar Ashaya Yachita Tatna Aicha Rajayan Yasya
Yasha,
whose
Supayam,
service,
service,
Valalilaya,
Hallelujah,
childhood.
childhood.
Translation, please repeat. He was one who,
He was one who,
even in his childhood,
even in his childhood,
at the age of 5 years,
at the age of 5 years,
was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna
was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna
that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast,
that he was called by his mother for morning breakfast.
he did not wish to have it.
He did not wish to have it.
He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. She was over purport. From his very birth, Udhava was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, or a Nitya Siddha, a liberated soul. From natural instinct, he used to serve Lord Krishna, even in his childhood. He used to play with dolls in the form of Krishna. He would serve the dolls by dressing, feeding, and worshipping them. And thus he was constantly absorbed in the play of transcendental realization. These are the signs of an eternally liberated soul. An eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. Human life is meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. The sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of human life is fulfilled. A good family of devotees, the child gets the opportunity to serve the Lord in many ways. The soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in such an enlightened family. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Suchinam Simadangi Yoga Rashto Vijayate. Even the fallen devotee gets the opportunity, even the fallen devotee gets the opportunity to take his birth in the family of a well-situated Brahmin or in a rich, well-to-do mercantile family. In both these families, there is a good opportunity to revive one's sense of God consciousness automatically, because particularly in these families, the worship of Lord Krishna is regularly performed and the child gets the opportunity to imitate the process of worship called Archana. The Pancharatri formula for training persons in devotional service is temple worship, whereby the neophytes get the opportunity to learn devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit also used to play with Krishna dolls in his childhood. In India, the children of good families are still given dolls of the Lord, like Rama and Krishna, or sometimes the demigod, so that they may develop the aptitude of service to the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents, and the beginning of our life was based on this principle. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnanam Janas Sarakaya Chakru Nidam Jena Tasmai Si Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Jap Panchahayano Matra Patarashaya Japshido Arnaicha Prachayandasya Saparyam Bhagavadaya. So, Panchahayana, at the age of 5, Sri Udhava, whom Prabhupada here describes as Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated. He neglected sense gratification, or he neglected bodily concern. Not neglected in a serious sense. He was not, to not be misconstrued as those who are envious of the Krishna consciousness movement. He did not start it. But the idea here is that he was absorbed, just like ordinary children. We can remember when ordinary children are playing. We were pretty ordinary. Sometimes they're absorbed in their games. The parents call, mother calls, come to dinner, lunch. They don't want to come. It's not. They don't want to come back in the house and play their games. Mother doesn't come to call. So here, Uddhava, Sri Uddhava, was absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Engaged, play in his devotional service, Bhava Lila, even as a boy, young child. So also Prahlad Maharaj has spoken on this. He says, Kumara, Ashari Pragyo, Dharman, Bhagavatam. Kumara means Pantahaya, approximately. Same thing, young boy or young girl, any child. Kumara Achari, a young child must practice or should practice. Kumara Achari Pragyo, Dharma, Bhagavatam. All the, he gives it in the plural, all the procedures of Bhagavad Dharma. Actually, from the verb, to act, achara. Achara means behavior. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked, what is the symptom of a devotee? And he said, Asatsanga Tyago, Vaishnavachara. That the Vaishnavachara, or the visible behavior of a devotee, is Asatsanga Tyago. He gives up all materialistic association. Not interested. This is the Achara. This is Vaishnavachara. Similarly, Arjuna asked Lord Krishna, he the Kailing dies. By what visible symptom? By what visible symptom? Kailing dies, Jigunani dan, Atito Bhavati. How do we know by what visible symptom that someone has actually transcended the modes of nature? So this is a spiritual science based on observation. This is science. There must be some visible symptom, something which can be observed by any reasonable or interested party. Therefore, Arjuna used the word lingo, physical symptom, kailinga. And also Prahlad says, Kumara Akshari, that even a young child should practice, not merely have a type of faith, or believe, or hear some stories, but actually practice. Actually. Kumara actually. Pragyo. Because even a child can actually be enlightened. Pragyo. This word pragyo means enlightened, or with knowledge. Pragyo. Arjuna also asked in the second chapter, Stita pragyosya, same word, pragya or pragya. Stita, one who is situated in spiritual knowledge, Abhasha, what is his language? Not a rascal, bogus, but actually one who has knowledge. Stita pragyosya, Abhasha, what is his language? Samadhi Swasya Kishava, one who is actually in Samadhi. Fixed in Krishna consciousness. Stita Dhi, Impravashiva. What would such a person speak, or why would such? And Kimasi to Vrajita. And such a person, Kimasita. Why would such a person, or under what circumstances would such a person, Asito, remain fixed? Or in a particular position, when would such a person proceed and move, go take action. One was the first one he made. The same thing this way. What are the symptoms? You can ask people to read it. So, similarly, Prahlad Maharaj said, Kumara Sari Pragyo, that even a Kumara, young child, can be Pragyo, can be enlightened, or can understand Krishna consciousness. It's possible. And therefore they must practice dharma. This is the plural. Plural. Dharma Bhagavatam. They must practice all the Bhagavad dharmas, all the principles of Krishna consciousness in this life. See all. Because, what is it? Sudurlabham manusam janma. Because manusam janma. Human life is so rare that Tarapya Dhruva, even though it is adhruva, it is not permanent. It is not permanent. Dhruva means permanent, or certain, something which will remain. Even Tarapi, even though that is not permanent, ardhanam, it will give us ardha, the goal of our life. It will give us, fulfill the purpose of our life, this human body. So, similarly here, a practical example of what Prahlad Maharaj has said is given here, that your Panchahayano, at only 5 years old, Matra, Patra, Sarvata, you only wanted Krishna consciousness. You only wanted devotional service. And Prabhupada is another example. The most immediate example for us. He once told us, myself and one other devotee in his room in Los Angeles, he said to us, there was never a time when I did not know Krishna. Then he said, you understand. So he was talking about this. He spoke this very gravely. Prabhupada is a member of that elite community, Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated souls who agreed to come to this world. Rishi Maharaj is also given as an example. Bala Krida Naka Krida Krishna Krida Jahanade, the second canto. As Rishi was playing from the beginning of Krishna doll, Prabhupada was also simply thinking about Krishna. So any human being, it doesn't matter, man, woman, child, any human being can become Krishna conscious, can learn the science of Krishna consciousness. And actually this is our real life. Here are the words of Paraya. Service. Prabhupada explains this point in so many ways that we are meant for service by our constitutional nature. We are not meant for such gratification. The happiness or pleasure is automatically there. The soul is Atma Aramo. Atma Aramo means taking pleasure fully. And that pleasure is there in the soul. There is no problem. The soul is just like this harmony. The word harmony means characteristic, as Prabhupada explains in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, it is given in that way. This is the standard meaning of the word dharma. Of course, it means religious principle. Also, it means characteristic. This is the standard use of the term. It is not an esoteric meaning. This is a very common use of the word. Dharma means a characteristic, or that which sustains the identity of something. It's like Prabhupada's example of water. The water is liquid. So liquidity sustains the identity of water. If it's not liquid, it's not water. Similarly, if something is not hot, it's not fire. So this way, characteristic, just like from this root tree, like you have giri dhari. Dhari is the same root, dhara. Krishna is called Chakradhara, Gadadhara, Shambhadhara, holding, sustaining. He'll Govardhan holding his concept of love and so Dhara, and similarly Dharma, from the same root. So that which sustains, that which holds up the identity of something, the essential identity, essential characteristic, dharma. So we also have our dharma. Our dharma is to serve. Therefore, we are always serving. Just like water, even if it is polluted, it is liquid. Even if you have impure water, contaminated water, it's still liquid. So even when we are contaminated, we are serving, but we are serving the wrong thing. So we are serving the wrong way. We have to serve. But we have to serve something false. Just like someone may falsely think, I am this body, and I have to serve this body, because otherwise who will take care of it? I have no security. There's no Krishna, there's no God, there's no security in devotional service. Therefore, my main concern should not be Krishna consciousness. My main concern is the security of my body. Some people interpret this as Vedic culture. So, actually, if one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, there's no other obligation. Krishna will provide everything. He says it. This verse does not apply to a lazy person. Those who think Krishna consciousness means to lie down in the ashram and sleep day and night. Don't walk across that, don't you go around. So, it does not mean that one can give up his duties, give up all responsibilities and lie down in the ashram. This is not the idea. But the idea is, as Lord Krishna says, that ananyas chintayantoma. One was only thinking of me. Ananya. Anya means something else. There's nothing else. Ananya. Chintayantoma. Jejana. These people, Krishna says. Jejana. Paripasati. Were worshipping me nicely. Tesam. For them. Nitya vichutana. Were always engaged. Directly. Obey. Obey here means directly. Directly engaged in Krishna consciousness. Tesam nitya vijutanam yurvachivam bhavami. I personally carry them with me. So the problem is not economic problems or security or food and shelter. The problem is how to come to this standard of Krishna consciousness. Now, Prabhupada was just hearing a tape on the way to San Diego here. Prabhupada says, if you cannot come to this standard, then you must not neglect your other duties. In other words, if someone is neither Krishna conscious nor accepts their worldly duties, then they become a rascal. I remember one time in Hawaii when some former leader had difficulties and went away, he even took money. I remember Prabhupada, when he arrived, as soon as he arrived, he kept making this heavy point to this person, that if you cannot practice nicely, at least be a gentleman. Remember this Prabhupada said? At least be a gentleman. In other words, if one cannot come to this standard, then at least be a gentleman or a lady. At least be a lady or a gentleman. And follow the moral principles, fulfill your ordinary duties and responsibilities, and so on. But if one is able to come to the higher standard of full engagement in Krishna consciousness, there is no anxiety Krishna will maintain such a person. Prabhupada, I ever shouted from the Vyasa-san, go and preach, but don't worry about money. Prabhupada shouting that. So if we are actually fully dedicated, as Krishna says, there is no anxiety. Also the verse that says, Prabhupada always quoted, Vivarsi Bhudastarinam, Vitinam, the king of nine of each other. Sarvatmanaja. Sarvatmanaja Sharanam Sharanyam Gadoma Kundam. Very historical. This famous verse also. That one was wholeheartedly taking shelter of Krishna. Wholeheartedly. There's no other duty. Natu Deva, Rishi, Bhuta, Apta, Mri. Mri means Nara. Human being. Deva, Apta. Apta means relatives, friends, those who are in our intimate circle. in a worldly point of view. Devarsi Bhuta, ordinary things, after Ninam, Pitrinam, forefathers, Nakinkara. He's not a servant of these. The word Kinkara is very nice. Kinkara, servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses the word Kinkara. Kinkara for people. Kinkara is literally what shall I do? King, what? Kara, shall I do? Kinkara. So, because the servant asked, King Karam, what shall I do? So anyway, he's not a king Karam. He's not a servant of any of these. He doesn't have to make an extraneous endeavor to satisfy any of these communities, nor is he Rani. Rani means debtor. Renan means debt, and Rani means debtor. He's not a debtor, nor is he a servant of any of these. Because Sarvagmana, this is the key word, Sarvagmana, wholeheartedly, with his whole soul, mind and body. Sarvagmana, he's taking shelter of Krishna, Mukunda. Now, this word Sarvagmana is like Lord Krishna's word. Lord Krishna says, Sarvagmana, those are always engaged. Or Nitya, Krishna says the same thing. Desam Nitya Viduta. Those who are always in Parayupasya, worshiping nicely. Ananya, no other. They're not distracted. They're not thinking of anything except my devotional service. You may say, well, but I'm not always thinking of Govinda, Krishna. But as far as point, you're always thinking about how to serve his mission. That's also the same. If one's only consideration is how to serve Prabhupada's mission, then they also follow. So even a child can be trained up in this spirit to know what is right and wrong, this spirit of service, that we are acting meant by our constitutional position for service. We are meant for that. That is our constitutional nature. We are meant for that service. We will never be happy by sense gratification because we're not meant for that. It is artificial. It's not our actual position. Nor is it a very pleasant, nice thing anyway. It's a very stupid concept. Because sense gratification means to shut out all the reality, shut out Krishna, shut out the fact that all souls are the same as me. All of these beautiful spiritual truths, the spiritual reality, everything's shut out, and one lives in a very nasty little confined world in which one sees oneself as a center. It's a very nasty little world. Because actually, what are we? We're very tiny. We're insignificant. So therefore, if one sees oneself as everything, honestly speaking, what are we? We are very tiny, we are very, in so many ways, especially in this world, we are quite mediocre in so many ways. Therefore, if one sees oneself as a center, this is a nasty little perverted conception of life. There's no question of happiness. There's no question of happiness. This is a very foolish and trivial concept. Whereas if we open ourselves up to the greater realities of Krishna and all the souls who are part and parcel of Krishna, this is real life, this is adult life. This is what it means to become a mature person, to become a real person, to become a pure devotee of Krishna. And stop any nonsense. So even at the age of 5, Panchahaya, Udava could understand this, he could practice this. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That anyone, in any position, as stated in the verse, Om Pavitram Pavitruva Sarvavastham Gadopiva. In any situation, Sarvavastham Gadopiva. Jakshmane Pundalika. Anyone who simply remembers Krishna, he can become pure. Savaya Dhamsarasuti. Apavitra Pavitruva. Whether he is pure in anyone, any position. Is Krishna Smarana or Krishna Kirtana. Krishna, in this case, Krishna Smarana means Krishna Kirtana. Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Anyone can practice this and achieve the perfection of life. So, any questions on this point? Yes.
You were saying about how actually we're pretty mediocre and thinking we have the center of the universe is, whatever, like you said. So someone may counter that this is a very demeaning position, and this is simply self-defeatist, and one has to feel confident and realize its full potential. We have to feel that it's very important.
Self-esteem.
Yeah, and able to create and.
Yes, that's a fact, but you should do it on the real platform. On the real, just like if let's say I'm on top of a building about to jump off, and you say, "What the H are you doing?" And I say, "I'm a birdie." And you say, "You're not a birdie, you're a fool." And I say, "Why are you trying to limit me? I'm trying to realize my full potential. I'm trying to develop, don't bring me down." The point is, I'm about to do a very stupid thing, jump off the building, and, thinking I'm a birdie. All right, so actually, that happened. That's a story I've told many times in Toronto, United States. In 1972, when I went to do some preaching in Toronto, there was a large, and actually modern, very well-built residential building, almost like a 20-story, it was about 20, 25 stories, very beautiful, almost like a condo. But it was built by the Canadian government for the hippies. Probably was asked, what is a hippie? So something wonderful.
Something extraordinary.
Something extraordinary. So they were causing so much trouble in Toronto, these hippies, in the streets, causing so much trouble socially. The government decided in a misguided way, let's just give them a nice big building in the middle of the city, all go there, stop sleeping everywhere else, the sidewalks and cars. They gave this building, but then the building became a drug haven, mafia, it became a big fiasco. Anyway, the upshot of all this is that a group of these hippies went to the top of the 20, 25-story building. They'd taken LSD. They all had the realization together that they were actually birdies. They were going to fly off the building. So they all held hands and jumped. And it was a pretty ugly thing. It turned out they were not birdies. So that's something like what this process is, such gratification. Jumping off a big building thinking I'm a birdie. If someone comes and tells you don't jump, you say, "Hey man, you're what about my self-esteem?" So you actually can be fully creative, you can be fully confident in your real position. That's the point. If you would take, let's say, an airline ticket, then you can actually fly. Do a good jet plane or airplane, it's well engineered, well maintained. Then that's the actual platform for flying. Then you can fly. So in the same way, if you become, because you're part of Krishna, because you're part of God, in connection with Him, you actually become great. Then you become. Just like if you want to become rich, follow the laws, work nicely, and you'll become rich. Don't become rich by becoming a thief. If you say to the thief, "Don't steal," hey, that's what I do for a living. No, that's all right, you can be rich, but be rich honestly, not by stealing. You follow? So self-esteem, what are you by yourself, actually? But if you're part of Krishna, imagine your position. Krishna is so great, you can breathe out billions of universes. Anyway, Krishna is so great. So if you're part of Krishna, imagine your position. So you're demeaning yourself. By separating yourself from Krishna, you're demeaning yourself. Yes.
This is not a point about this morning's class, but something you said yesterday. You were speaking about, you gave the example of computers and how everybody wants lighter and faster and, more power for processing information. And then you compared that to the ultimate then being the Hare Krishna mantra. And I was thinking that that's actually a fact, that if you follow how they process knowledge, the more subtle and finer the medium, the more power and the more abilities they have that they realize as they get into that medium. So that if you start with a gross earthly medium, just like an abacus or something like that, that's one way of utilizing material energies to get knowledge or to increase your ability to manipulate or whatever. But then when they've gotten into the medium of electricity, now they've got computers, and now they're going to try and get a step beyond that by using light rather than just the electrical components. They want to use light. And if they learn how that works, then that will give them so much more ability. So if you take that to the logical conclusion, and you come to the point of sound and transcendental sound, that's the finest medium of all. So it has the biggest potential. So even scientifically, that's a fact of what we're saying about the Maha Mantra. And I was just listening to a tape where Sri Damodar come to see Prabhupada in Bhubaneswar in 1977. And at one point, Sri Damodar he made this statement that actually the scientists will never understand because it's beyond science, Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, no. He said it's beyond their science. He said, but this is science.
Yes.
Thought that I had for you.
That's not, I was thinking, as you were speaking of the Gita verse, the 13th chapter, Lord Krishna says, Sukshmatvat Pradvikeyam, that cannot be comprehended because it is so subtle.
Actually, in the same conversation, Guru Damodar was saying that actually he said they'll never understand because it's a chusa. It's inconceivable in material energy.
It's Indian.
A chincha, a fry. Prabhupada said no, it is chincha. He said it is conceivable. It is Krishna's external energy. You can understand. He said you can't understand.
Yes, it is inconceivable certainly. Just like if I stand on the sidewalk and say, teach me all about physics, and you say, well, read this book. I'm not going to read the book. Well, come to the school. I don't want to hear about your school. Just tell me what it is. And then they say, oh, you can't understand. Ah, what's the matter? No one can understand anything? It's just like harassment. It's just like, some guy on some ski park swinging and shaking or something. They say, show me go. It's just harassment.
So sometimes one has all this opportunity associating more with counting from the very beginning of life, getting all the best training, Christian consciousness seems to absorb everything and become very accurate. And Prabhupada gives the example sometimes how a dolphin learns to ride, guiding hand, how to ride the ABCD, and he's doing he's doing it himself. Even though he doesn't understand it, he's actually suddenly learned how to do something. That seems something that we never forget to do, or like my learning to swim. But with Krishna consciousness, sometimes a person has to beg for training, and somehow later on in life they lose it. The person might appear to be very prodigious and understand everything through the model of devotee. And then at a certain point in life, at any point before or after adolescence, they seek to spirit. So why is that transcendental training seems to be more lucid than the material?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's more subtle. It's more advanced. For example, let's say I'm a pianist and I've achieved a very high degree of mastery on the keyboard. So then, for years, let's say I give it up, I lose interest. I start to become rusty. So what goes first? What goes first is the most advanced, the most subtle thing. So then when I come back after a few years, I can still, play it a little clunky. I've lost that very subtle, that very fine touch. Isn't it? So what I do is a little clunky, and after a while I can't do this. So if you see how learning is lost, it starts from the most difficult things and then gradually easier things. So that's natural. Just as you're going up a mountain, the last thing that comes to is the peak, and you fall down. The first thing you lose is the high position. You gradually come down to a low position. So something like that. But it will come back. When Arjuna asks this question in the 6th chapter of the Gita, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? The word he uses is payati. Ayati Sadayogita Yoga Sodhyam. So the word ayati is an interesting word. Of course, yati, common word, it's just the opposite of yati. Yati means a stage, but it means literally one who is self-controlled and regulated. Because the word yama is yamaraj. Yama means regulation. The word yama, yamaraj is the same word in the yoga system. Yama, yama. The first process of yoga is yama. And basically yama, bottom line, as they say, is the four regular principles. That's what the real point is. You know, really the four regular principles. That's yama, that's the first stage of yoga. So, Yamaraj is called Yamaraj because if you can't follow the four regular principles voluntarily, then he'll help you to follow it. It gives you different types of perks, or negative perks. So therefore he's called Yamaraj. So the other word Yama. And then one who is actually following these principles, he's called Yati. He's called Yati. Regulated sage, a self-controlled sage. So one who could not control himself, who could not stick to the regulation is ayati. And that's the word Arjuna uses. Ayati. Says the yoga, but he had faith, but he could not stick to the regulation. Yoga, so his mind was deviated from yoga. Sakti of yoga, samsiddham, samvedhim. And then our Krishna goes into this whole explanation of the different results. So the ultimate is not lost. Nihari, it will come back. So, yeah.
What can we do to encourage the children that have grown up in the Gurukul who, let's say, want to go out and get a karma job or something, to keep Krishna conscious?
Well, first, I think you should be good to those.
The following is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 3, Text 32, given by Hridayananda Das Goswami on June 8, 1990 in Gainesville, Florida.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Everyone see the verse? Dasyu Utkrishta Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajana Praja Bhaksha Shishna Udara Para Dija. Very heavy statement. Dasyut Krishna Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajanascha Praja Bhaksha Shishnaudara Paradija Dasyut Krishna Janapada Veda Pashanda Dushita Rajanascha Praja Bhaksha Shishnaudara Paradija. This verse is as follows, are as follows. Dasyu Utkrishta, predominated by thieves. Janapada, the populated places. Veda, the Vedic scriptures. Pashanda, by atheists. Dushita, contaminated. Rajana, the political leaders. Chayan, Prajabhaksha, consuming the populace. That's right. Shishna Udara, to the genitals and belly. Para, dedicated. Dija, the Brahmanas. So translation, please repeat. This is, of course, a description of the Kali Yuga. Cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. Purport. Many large cities are unsafe at night. For example, it is understood that no sane person will walk in New York Central Park at night because he knows he will almost certainly be mugged. Is that true?
Oh, yes.
Apart from ordinary thieves who abound in this age, large cities are filled with cutthroat businessmen who enthusiastically convince people to purchase and consume useless or even harmful products. It has been well documented that beef, tobacco, liquor, and many other modern products destroy one's physical health, what to speak of mental health, and yet modern capitalists do not hesitate to use every psychological trick in the book to convince people to consume these things. Modern cities are full of mental and atmospheric pollution, and even ordinary citizens are finding them unbearable. This verse also points out that the teachings of the Vedic scriptures will be distorted in this age. Great universities teach courses on Hinduism, in which Indian religion, despite limitless evidence to the contrary, is described as polytheistic and leading to an impersonal salvation. In fact, all Vedic literature is a unified whole, as stated by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Vedai Sasarvaya Hameva Vedya. By all the Vedas I, Krishna, am to be known. All Vedic literature is meant for enlightening us about the supreme personal absolute truth, Vishnu or Krishna. Although known by many names and appearing in many forms, God is a single absolute entity and he is a person. But this true Vedic understanding is hidden in the Kali Yuga. In this verse, Sukadev astutely observes that, quote, political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. How sadly true this statement is. Om jnanatirandasya jnanam jana salakaya chakshurum milidam jena tasmai sri gurave Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Dina Bhutale Sangrupa Gadahayam Gadati Sapadantikam Dasyukrishta Janapada Veda Pasanda Dushita Rajanascha Prajabhaksha Shisnodara Parabija. So, this is a description of Kali Yuga. Janapada, Pada means position. Pada also means foot. So wherever your foot is, that's where you are. So also we say in English, someone has a particular standing. So it's a simple point. Anyway, Jana, where the people stand, where the people are settled, that is called Janapada, or the city. Janapada. So these Janapadas